Good morning. The topic of my today's lecture is war poetry, and specifically I shall be dealing with Wilfred Owen's Futility. Some of you have asked for brief notes and all. Those will be available in the description box. Okay. So war poetry is the kind of poetry written during the time of World War I, and these poetries are also known as trench poetry. So before I start with the actual poem, let me talk a little about the history of war poetry. There are basically two types of war poetry. The first part, which is more popular as Georgian poetry, it is something thematically different from the popular war poems. Among many Georgian poets, Rupert Brooke was one of the most important names. In his poem, we can find there is something called, there is an effect of patriotism, there is an effect of graceful lyricism, where it pictures the story of a happy warrior who happily dies for his country, and he has the patriotism, valor, courage, everything. And through this poetry, people and poets like Rupert Brooke, they actually celebrate the war. But if we actually study the war poetry, those are against the war. Those are actually anti-war poetries, which are naturalistic and painfully realistic and provides a traumatic picture of war. So, in those kind of war poetry, we have the soldier poets who had the first-hand experience of war, and they went actually to the war, they have fought for their country, and they died. Most of the war poets have died during the time of war. And in those poetry, we have the representation of horror and pity of the war, and it talks about the terror and tragedy also. In those poetry, we have shocking and very much disturbing languages, images, and there are many words, like there are new words which was coined through these war poets, something like mud, trench, etc. And there is a vivid picture of all those things. There are famous war poets like Edward Thomas, Isaac Rosenberg, Wilfred Owen, Siegfried Sassoon, and Robert Graves. They have portrayed a very realistic picture of war, unlike the portrayal of Rupert Brooke, unlike the portrayal of the Georgian poets who had tried to present war as a kind of celebration. These people have not celebrated war. Instead, they had kind of strong antipathy towards war and the warmongers. Now, in this particular lecture, we shall be talking about Wilfred Owen and his famous poem Futility. Wilfred Owen was himself, he was a soldier, he has fought for England in World War I, and he has died also in World War I. From his personal experience, he has written so many poems which include Anthem for Doomed Youth, Strange Meetings, Mental Cases, Spring Offensive, and of course this particular poem, Futility. Now let us read the poem first, then we'll try to analyze the themes and other aspects of the poem. So the poem reads like this. Move him into the sun. Gently its touch awoke him once. At home, whispering of fields half shone, always it woke him, even in France. Until this morning and this snow, if anything might rouse him now, the kind old sun will know. So, this poem talks about a dead soldier who has just died in the battlefront, away from his home. They are fighting in France, and he is a British soldier. He is a English soldier. So he has died. So the speaker, who is talking about his poor fate, he talks about we should keep the body of the dead soldier into the sun. Here, sun is a very kind of sympathetic and lively image which has been portrayed here. The sun used to awake the soldier from his sleep, but unfortunately, the sleep is very deep here. The soldier has actually died, so the sun has not got the ability to rise him again from his sleep. He tries to mean that. Always it woke him even in France. Even before he died, in the trenches, he used to get up and he used to feel the kind old sun when he gets up from his sleep. Until this morning and snow. Until this morning, he used to wake up every day in the morning, and this snow. Snow is something which is very cold, and that is symbolic towards the death. It's symbolic of the death. So anything might arouse him now, the kind old sun will know. So the speaker is optimistic till, because the soldier has just died, his body is still warm, and he thinks that the kind old sun may have the ability, may have the power to awake him from his deep sleep. So how he is optimistic? In the second stanza he talks about that. The second stanza reads like this: think how it wakes the seeds, woke once the clays of a cold stir. Our limbs so dear achieved, our sides full nerve still warm, too hard to steer. Was it for this the clay grew tall? Oh, what made future sunbeams toil to break our sleep at all? So, in the second stanza, which is also the last stanza of the poem raises certain concerns. He talks that the sun has the power, the sun has the ability to wake the seeds. From the seeds, new plants, new sapling grows. So the speaker thinks that the sun may have the ability to awake this dead soldier also. So he has pointed out a question here. He talks that all these limbs, all this body of the young soldier, was it grown only for this kind of futile exercise? This young man who has died in the battlefront in France, perhaps he was a farmer's son, and perhaps he was not meant for war. So he is the speaker is raising the question that this futile exercise of war has led this young gentleman towards his doom. He is raising the question, is it for this the sun has grown this full body of this young soldier? He has a serious doubt about that aspect. And differently, he is actually raising questions towards the warmongers. Why we are actually fighting this kind of war? If the war leads this kind of actions, like the death of a young man, is it actually necessary? Do you think the war is necessary for us? He is raising this kind of questions through the war. The last two lines, oh, what made future sunbeam toils to break our sleep at all? He talks about the same aspect, that the sunbeam and its effect is actually futile. The sun ray has no hope here because it cannot awaken the dead soldier from his deep sleep. So, this act of futility is the act of creation in the face of death's inevitability. And this is also a kind of religious poem where human institutions and religion and human existence has been questioned. And in this particular poem, we can find that unlike Owen's other poems, which contains violent bodily images, this poem actually features a calmer and more resigned tone. And this poem is something like an act of mourning. After the death of the soldier, he is actually mourning for that particular young gentleman. And this mourning is the futile experience of the life on the face of death. And because of that thing, this mourning is very doubtful and it is also very discouraging. So altogether, Wilfred and Owen has tried to portray a picture that all this war, all this warfare, these are futile exercises and we have to abstain ourselves from the war to keep the humanity safe. Thank you.